What's good, people? I'm back and bummy as ever. Who even says that? I don't know. But yeah, clearly haven't seen my barber in a few weeks. Actually, let's change that. All right, well, back with a change, back with a trim. Barber did his miracles, but yeah, today what I, in all seriousness, want to speak about is having impact in your career. Sorry if I sound like I have a cold. That's because I do. I'm not feeling too well, but we're here for the content. This week I'll be speaking at my old uni, UCL, but specifically in the School of Management side of the uni where I did my master's in entrepreneurship, and I'll be doing a talk there on having impact in your career, and it's particularly focused on people who are recent graduates up to 4 to 5 years, and that perfectly fits my description. I'm going to be a panelist there speaking about my own experiences within big tech so far that I've been in for 3.5 years. I've had a sales role for basically the whole 3.5 years, or most of it, or 3 years roughly. Then I spent 3 months of that also doing DEI program management, also within big tech out in New York. And I got that opportunity through Google, where I've been the entire time. I've been at Google the whole 3.5 years. And then more recently, I've moved into YouTube, which is a separate company, but underneath Alphabet, the parent company. And all throughout that, I've had a battle with impact and what it means, what it's defined as, and what its true value is. And I think those are two things: what it's defined as and what it actually looks like in action. So I'll speak about that today. The first thing about having impact, or that I found very early in my career, again, I'm only 3.5 years, three years, like 9 months into my career, approaching 4, is, yeah, there's a difference between impact as a written rule and impact in action, and how the two intersect. So the best first thing you can do is understanding for the organization what impact in your direct role means. What constitute you have an impact, and what does that mean in terms of promotion? So, for example, in my last role, I knew that essentially what they define as impact is, or you even performing at the next level, is basically you being able to carry out your core responsibilities. And those core responsibilities were bucketed into a 40-40-20 split. 40% of that was focused on my sales role, my sales targets. 20% was on other business priorities. And then 40% was on other attributes and things I bring to the table, not just in terms of my core and business priorities, but also what I can provide to the team on a wider scope. Having a really clear understanding, speak to your manager, even speak to your skip levels, and find out what they define as success, not just within the team, but within the organization. That will allow you a playing field to be able always to reference back to those key indicators of what success looks like. And it's so important to be able to own that impact and know when also to ask for feedback based on when you're performing above or below those clear expectations. Without clear expectations, you can't have a clear ask. So in terms of promotion, or where you want to go next, or what you want to do next, again, if there's no clear expectations, there can't be any clear asks. And I think that's super important. Being very clear about my first 3 years, 9 months, anybody that knows me knows I was quite inconsistent at times with my core performance. That 40% of my role, that is super critical. And don't get me wrong, there are parts of it I was super strong at. There are certain skills within myself I know I'm really good at. I'm a good relationship builder. I'm strong with strategy, or at least, like, when I say strategy, I more mean like building out a strategy for the people I work with and the clients I work with. But sometimes metrics, I've never really been a numbers person, but I've learned to become a numbers person, but in a different way, in terms of being able to quantify my impact. And I'll speak about that a bit later. But essentially that 40% core sometimes wasn't always strong, and that was the main thing the business cared about. But then also, like I said, it was a 40-20 and 40 split. That 40% that was on my attributes, how I show up to work, how I lift myself and others in my team, like really the core values that a lot of the big tech companies have. I was super strong at that. Like, that comes naturally to me. It still does to this day. that was the very thing, or the very attributes that allowed me to take on a role in DEI, which again initially actually was kind of put on me. And to be completely honest, at some point I was like, I don't want to be like another token like black person taking on a DEI lead role for my team, where I was basically setting up events for different cultural like diversity, cultural differences amongst our team, trying to celebrate and uplift everybody and make sure everybody can come to work. And I was hosting events alongside a good friend of mine, Coro, shout out her, and Karina as well was another person. But like, we were all trying to celebrate each other and the cultures and our backgrounds. And to be completely honest, when that was put in front of me as an opportunity, especially because that core part of my work, I was still struggling with it at the time. I was like, oh no, like, I was concerned deep down whether I want to be that token person doing that kind of role. Even though I do care about people, that's one thing about me. I really care about people, and I can see how in a company with such high stakes, it can be really tough. And I really wanted to be able to provide that environment. Once I got over that mental block, I really managed to double down on that part of myself that I knew, I had completely put my brain in that 40% box and had left aside what my strengths are. And once I was able to hone those strengths, double down on my passion for people and DEI ultimately, I managed actually to excel. Like, as soon as I started taking on more responsibility in that DEI role, which was helping me towards the other 40%, I then became way more efficient with my time in preparing for my day-to-day job. The DEI stuff was just on the side, but it helped me prepare and be more meticulous with my day-to-day job. And I realized that once I had spent energy on something that I also cared about very deeply, it gave me more purpose to do well in my core role, and they almost worked hand in hand. And that was something that was so critical for me to do, and understand that, like that 40% I knew was always solid, and that DEI part of me that I'd been able to put into action. And this is what's so important about the companies you work for as well. Do they allow you to double down on the things you're passionate about, or your strong suits? And I was very lucky that I had like a couple of managers or some people in my team who were able to help me do that. Some of my colleagues who were able to help me do that and achieve that. That like ultimately led to my promotion in a way I never thought I would, which was focusing on my passions, but also combining it with what the business priorities were, and ideally building an inclusive environment and doing a DEI role that tries to reflect the diversity of the team also helped boost morale across the team as well at the time, even though, again, it was tough. There were a lot of tough times in the role. Like, I can speak for myself and others. There's a lot of tough times in big tech. It's not an easy role. Sorry, it's out of focus. It's not an easy role. But like that DEI role that I initially kind of almost turned a blind eye to ended up being an opportunity for me that took me to New York, where I applied to be a part of like a selective program that enabled a few select people to basically rotate to a different country for 3 months if they were selected, and work in a different part of Google's business. And that was super cool, and I managed to land it very fortunately, obviously due to the hard work I had, but also there's some luck involved. There always is, but remember, there's also a part of your luck that you can create. Like, I think it's the philosopher Seneca, I'm probably gonna butcher this quote, but they say luck is where opportunity meets preparation. I always say you have to make sure you're prepared for when the opportunity is available. And now more than ever in so many industries, the opportunities aren't there, but you need to prepare as if they are there, so that when it does come, you're ready to take it. And I was lucky that I was ready to take it at that time, and I did go to New York, which was a fantastic opportunity. And even there, I felt completely out of my depth. In my core role, in my role back in Ireland, my sales role, I was used to it. I got promoted. I'd been in a role for 2 years. I knew what I was doing, but in New York, I was doing DEI full time for 3 months, and whereas when I was in Ireland, I was only doing DEI on the side, and now I was doing it full time. But also, it was a program management role. I was thinking of DEI on an America's level. I was new to New York. I was new to the American way of working, the culture. Even though I work for an American company, the culture being in New York is also different. And I had to soak all of that up and learn program management and learn thinking about DEI on a strategy level there. And my team were honestly fantastic. And also the previous participants selected to be part of that program, they were also so fantastic in helping me on that journey. But it was really a culture of trying to fail fast, learn faster, which is something I learned from my very entrepreneurship course, my entrepreneurship degree, which is where I actually I'm going back to the campus this week to have a talk and speak on, like I said, impact in my career. So honestly, like if I had to summarize it, it's really having a clear definition of what impact is and what it looks like, and trying to marry that with your passions and making sure those also can align and improve either your direct team or the wider organization. And there's also the piece on like visibility. Unfortunately, like, and sometimes I don't like that this is the case, but it's also very important who sees the fruits of your labor, like who sees what you're doing, because if nobody can see what you're doing, they might not be able to vouch for you. You also need to understand who is in the room when these promotion decisions are being made, and are you having impacts on your team, but also on the wider business around that. So it's also knowing who is in that room, and also how can you quantify your impact as well as the other important thing. Whether I was in New York or whether I was in my sales role or in the DEI program management role, I always had a working document of every single thing I've done, from the DEI events to my sales, my like sales consultations with clients, to the DEI program management work. I always had quantifiable metrics to prove the business worth of everything I was doing at work. And when you have those numbers to back it up, and again, I'm not a numbers person, but you need to create a working habit of having these things noted down, because it means whenever promotion conversations start to come up, you can remind your manager, your peers aren't going to remember every single thing you do. That's impossible, especially in big tech, where like I had 4 or 5 managers within the first year of my role in sales, and that was hectic. That's the nature of big tech though. It moves so quickly, things change all the time. But how can you expect every single person to remember every single detail of every single thing you've done? So you need to be able to record that somewhere and keep a working library of everything you do, and have it quantifiable so it shows your impact. And whenever you're ready to go for that next step in your career, even if it's not worth it for the role you're currently in, it might be worth it for something down the line or for something different, and you'll be able to show that portfolio of your work. So yeah, those are my main takeaways on create an impact in your career. But yeah, have a clear definition of what success looks like, have a clear understanding of what that looks like in action, quantifiably measure your impact in everything you do at work. Make sure it's written down somewhere, and you have a working library of the things you do and the impact that has on your team and your organization. And then also understand the people that are going to be in the room that can recognize that impact, because that's also super important. And the other thing is, be authentic to you and double down on your strengths, your superpowers. Double down on those superpowers. And like I said, that helps you create that those opportunities, or at least it helps you prepare for when those opportunities are available. And yeah, sometimes that's what people call luck, but if you prepare, you can't go wrong. But yeah, listen people, appreciate it. If you liked that chat, drop a like down below. If you loved it, drop a sub. And yeah, I'll be back with more videos. Let me know what else you'd like me to speak about. But yeah, I hope that was like a pretty honest an honest vibe on owning your career and having impact. But yeah, listen people, I'll catch you in a bit. Peace.